The Maverix Havik-16 Power Pickleball paddle has been in my possession for about 5 to 6 weeks now. But with those day-to-day sessions, there were some times where I played 100% with just this paddle alone. There were other times that I took this paddle and another paddle out and switched back and forth just to kind of be mindful of some of the differences that I noticed. And with all that being said, I have come to some conclusions with this paddle. My name is Jalik from WearTesters.com. This is my channel, Red Wolf Pickleball, and this video is a final review on the Maverix Havik-16 Power. I'd like to start off with the spin on this paddle. While I don't have my own RPM numbers, what I will say is, to the naked eye in my time playing with this, I'm comfortable saying it seems like it has a high spin potential. Another reviewer here on YouTube, Braden, who you may know as the Pickleball Effect, confirmed these thoughts as he has classified the Maverix Havik-16 Power as a high spin paddle, and that is according to his paddle stats database. What I find interesting about this being a high spin paddle is that you wouldn't expect it to be if you were to just judge it by the carbon face that you have. Initially, I compared the grit of the raw T700 carbon fiber face that you have here with the Legacy Pro, which is relatively smooth for a raw carbon fiber surface. But after getting the paddle side by side, I have to say the Maverix Havik-16 Power face is noticeably smoother. It is possible that this is a one-off thing with my paddle in particular, with it being so smooth. But if it isn't, what I would say is don't judge a book by its cover. You still get a good amount of spin from this paddle. While I don't expect any 2000 RPM numbers to come out on this paddle, what I can say is it's plenty of spin for those that need it and know how to utilize it. When it comes to control on the paddle, this is the area I struggled the most with. And obviously it isn't meant to be the best performance feature of this paddle, hence the name Havik-16 Power. But I do feel like I was able to adjust to the control and get more out of the control with this paddle the more that I played with it. The earliest adjustment I was able to make was at the kitchen when it came to dinking. I kind of got that down packed first, then came the mid-court resets, and last I was able to find a little bit more consistency than I previously had when it came to third shot drops, which I will note I'd still like to find a little bit more consistency with, but like I said, the more I play with this, the more I am able to hone in the control. Now when it came to placement and catching lines, the spin and pop of this paddle were a godsend as far as more aggressive shots go, but still putting the ball where I wanted it to be when I wanted it there. I think the only true downside to the control aspect of this paddle really is that it's not suited for beginners or less experienced players. I'm not the most experienced player myself, in all honesty, but when it came to the Havik-16 Power, I felt like I was able to hone it in a little bit more, especially after switching to another paddle, something more control oriented, and then switching back to this one. That seemed to help me out as far as the control on this paddle, rather than playing with it consistently throughout the whole day and no other paddle. I'm not sure how that works that way, but that's just my experience. Nearly everything that I love about this paddle, which is nearly everything, comes down to the hybrid thermoform construction of the Havik-16 Power. The internal foamed edges help to open up the sweet spot a little bit more on this, and the shape of the paddle with those foam edges actually reduces the weight, the perimeter weighting particularly, and brings the balance point down to a good place where this doesn't feel so head heavy, and also keeps the swing weight down below 120. Now aside from the 0.2 or 0.3 ounces from the overgrip that I've used on this paddle, I haven't felt the need to add any weight to it with lead tape or tungsten tape. If I do at some point in the future, honestly, to just be out of curiosity, I really feel like this was very fine where it was as far as weight goes. The Maverix Havik-16 Power truly feels like a well-balanced paddle, both from a literal and a performance perspective, in my opinion. I am going to do my best to separate pop from power, but still keep them kind of in the same grouping. Fortunately, the Havik-16 Power Pro is easy to do that with because it has both good pop and good power. The ball is crisp coming off the paddle, especially from the kitchen line when it comes to everything from dinking, punch volleys, blocks, and even the occasional lob from closer to the net. Similar can be said for pop as far as mid-court resets go. I felt like the more compact I was with it, the easier time I had resetting the ball. And when it comes to bigger swings and trying to plow through the ball, you're covered with this as well. When it comes to deeper serves and passing drives, I've probably had an easier time with this paddle than any other paddle I've played with. Off the top of my head, maybe the 14mm Yola Perseus competes with it, but that's all that I can really think of right now. Overhead smashes between the non-volley zone and the mid-court are a joy, and so are ground strokes from the mid-court back to the baseline where you're trying to keep your opponent back as much as possible. Overall, the Maverix Havik-16 Power has surpassed the Legacy Pro and even the Selkirk Vanguard Power Air as my favorite power pickleball paddle. I want to say it may be even my favorite overall paddle, but there are some other more control-oriented paddles that I've been playing with that I want to give proper time with. Speaking of the Legacy Pro, I did draw some similarities between the specs and dimensions of this paddle and the Legacy Pro, which I know made some of you curious to how they actually performed in comparison with one another. What I will say is I do feel like you get more power out of the Havik-16 Power than you do with the Legacy Pro. In my experience with the Legacy Pro, which is never broken on me, no delamination, no desponding, anything like that. But the Legacy Pro to me feels a little bit softer, just a touch. So I've enjoyed the pop and the power that I get out of the Havik-16 Power paddle. Despite the Legacy Pro feeling just a touch softer, I would say control seems very on par with one another. So it's kind of even ground on everything except when it comes to the pop and the power, which I just feel like I enjoy more with this one. I may even give the Legacy Pro a slight edge as far as spin goes, but honestly, I'm not sure that it would be that significant of a difference. I could be wrong about that, but like I said, just going off the naked eye, they seem like they're pretty much on par with each other. I will also say, to the Legacy Pro's credit, I'd rather miss-hit with the Legacy Pro than I would with this paddle, the Havik-16 Power, simply because of the shape of the paddle. It's not going to be as forgiving with the cut corners, literal cut corners. But when I'm on my A game, playing the way I know I can play, the way I should play all the time, this is the one for me right here. If you don't typically play with power-oriented paddles, then you will for sure get a new experience with the Havik-16 Power from Maverix. But if you are a little bit more advanced of a player, or you have more experience with power-oriented paddles, I would actually say this is kind of an all-court paddle. As I said before, the majority of the time that I play with it, I find it to be pretty balanced. I get it under control more and more as I play with it, and I've really just been enjoying it. So my recommendation would be for anyone that is looking to up their game with a more advanced paddle that's not too high of a swing weight and looking for the power and pop from a thermoform paddle, this is definitely a great option. Right now, this paddle is going for $155, but I do have a discount code which would save you an additional 15%, so it's gonna bring you somewhere just above $130 if I'm not mistaken. I think that is a great deal for this paddle, a great value, especially if you are looking for something that leans more towards the power. If you are interested in checking it out, I will have a link down in the description box below to their direct site, and the discount code is RWPB15, which I'll put somewhere on the screen for you guys. But that's all that I have for the Maverix Havik-16 Power and my final review for it. I want to thank you guys so much for all of your support. I do see the views going up steadily on the channel, so I'm very thankful that you guys are checking my content out. I do plan on having a written review released shortly after the video review goes up, so that'll be linked down in the description box below as well at WearTesters.com. Thank you all once again. I appreciate it so much. Until the next time I see you all, y'all take care of yourselves, take care of one another. Have a good one.